Thank you for inviting me today. I just want to say that the Fragrance Foundation is very proud to have these fabulous new members. Matthew and Andrew are people who were always on my radar, in the amenities programs. I even think when we used to take flights, I would see it as well. And I've been a huge admirer of the skincare, for quite a while. Peppermint scrub is now one of my major go-tos. However, we all know in this beauty community, it's like everyone knows everyone and you eventually catch up. And in this particular phase, it's so great to meet new friends. So it was Christina Iwasco, who handles membership actually at the Fragrance Foundation, who goes back decades, I believe, with these two. What I think is great is we now have 95 members. And even though we've just brought in a lot of indies, and you guys have gone way beyond indie status, but I would say everyone has their own story about fragrances. So what I find interesting, if you don't mind sharing, Matthew and Andrew, is your inspiration comes a lot from the garden and ingredients. I'm in love with that stem tomato thing. And could you talk about how you decided to do a strawberry fragrance?
Sure, absolutely. So as you mentioned, Matthew and I have become extraordinarily diligent gardeners over the years. One of the first things we did after our business started to become successful, and in order to sort of break that myopia of being in the store or the office 24/7, we knew we weren't disciplined enough to just sort of like, oh, let's walk through the village this week. We bought a little farmhouse in upstate New York, and neither Matthew nor I had really ever gardened before. And one of the first things we did was put in a garden. And it was this immediate, incredible, cathartic experience of not only just being able to grow wonderful food, but the whole process of gardening. Everything from planting, seeding, weeding, harvesting. It was just the whole cycle of life. And we really just embraced it like you can't imagine. And today, our garden has evolved into, it's no longer a little small plot. There's a berry garden, which has 10 or 15 different varieties of berries. There's an orchard. There's a vegetable garden, cutting garden. So it's borderlining on farm at this point. So it's really been an amazing experience. And one of the things that we just love to grow, particularly it's the first sign of spring, are strawberries. When you're coming off of a long winter, whether it's a COVID winter or just a typical Hudson Valley, upstate New York winter, February is cold and dreary. March is the cruelest month of all, and it begins to feel a little bit hopeless. But come April and May, strawberries start coming out of the ground, and it's like this incredible, beautiful treat after so much bleakness. And you get these tiny little fraise or red strawberries, and they're like candy and gumdrops. And honestly, it's not more complicated than that. We just love doing it. And of course, the scent is beautiful. The aroma of strawberries is what's so amazing. And of course, there's a little bit of a cliche like, oh, strawberry fragrance, what's that going to be like? But in the typical Malin+Goetz manner, what we always do is take something extraordinarily classic and we make it incredibly modern. And I would say that our strawberry eau de parfum is a really good example of that.
And strawberries, just so you know, in terms of the inspiration, they are a difficult thing to grow. Everyone loves strawberries. Every insect, every animal that you're fighting out in nature loves strawberries, birds, mice, everything. And you get very few for a lot of work that you put into it. And we grow two varieties. We grow an everbearing strawberry, and we also grow a native northeastern strawberry, which is very small and very sweet. They're both beautiful, but it's so much work that you understand why it's almost easier to go out and purchase them than to grow your own. But it's pretty satisfying and pretty incredible. This is Harold.
This is Harold, and I'm bringing Harold in for a particular reason, because strawberries grow very low to the ground. Harold is very low to the ground, and there's a lot of competition who can get to the strawberries first.
Yeah.
So Harold
did discover, we haven't had him for that long. He's only 9 months old. He discovered late blooming raspberries last autumn when we first got him. So he's very much aware of the berry garden and going in there and looking for berries.
And tomatoes.
So guys, when you're here, you're in New York today, right?
Yes.
They were in New York, yes.
Yeah. So give us a little more story on the strawberry thing. I actually think it's beyond belief. Sorry, I'm in Manhattan on the way to the hospital route, which is changing and getting quieter, by the way, I'm proud to say. There are a lot of fruity fragrances out there. And it's funny because I know Rolf Schweiger, who did the bergamot candle.
Yeah.
He is, I don't mean known as the fruit man, but he has invented so many fragrances that have a very big fruit base. I've also met Jill, I think she's in Paris, the perfumer who did the strawberry,
Yes.
Clarence. So how do you communicate to a perfumer, or what's the conversation, or what goes on between you have this idea you want a strawberry fragrance, and here we are today with this fabulous new fragrance?
Oddly enough, we've been accused of being fruit men ourselves, but maybe for a different reason. Getting back to the fragrance.
Strawberry comes from the same place where most of our scents come from. We're always looking for how to push the envelope between what is traditional and what is modern, and how to keep something very gender neutral so that it is appropriate for how a couple may actually shop for and use products together. This scent, in so many ways, pushes the envelope in ways that we hope is somewhat unexpected. Because when, at least as two men, when we think of strawberry, not eating and growing a strawberry, which men do all the time, 50% of all the people who love strawberries, I'm sure, are men. But in terms of thinking of it as a fragrance, we sort of associate it, at least I do, with it being feminine and being young. And so a young woman's kind of scent. And so how do you take that concept of something that maybe isn't always perceived to be sophisticated and elevate it in a way that is both gender neutral and extraordinarily dynamic, complex, sophisticated from a conceptual perspective, so that it does feel like no matter who you are, that like eating a strawberry, you could wear this and appreciate it in a new and unexpected manner.
Yeah, I think when you look at the strawberry, it could go either way when you're eating. I mean, the first inclination is like, oh, it's very sweet and candy-like, but there are much more interesting nuances in the scent of a strawberry, which is what we sort of wanted to draw out, because the other stuff was very obvious, and we like to make our lives a little bit more difficult. We went for the less obvious, but the more nuanced aspects of the strawberry, which I think is what makes this scent so incredible.
Yeah, I mean, if I could just give you like a point of reference for something that came before it, we have a fairly successful fragrance called Cannabis. And in the idea of creating cannabis, which has its origins in apothecary and perfumery for hundreds of years, thousands probably, the idea was to take something that felt overtly masculine and make it gender neutral. And interestingly enough, with some success under our belt there, we find that about 70% of our customer base for that particular scent are women, and about 30% men, exactly the opposite of what we intended. And likewise, we would like to see something like that happen with strawberry, where perhaps we imagine 70% of the customer base to be a younger woman, but what if it was in fact a man?
Well, you really started from the very beginning with your fragrances and your skincare. I think that it wasn't specific to a gender.
Right.
It's in the world to catch up, in all frankness. At the Fragrance Foundation, we spent a lot of time on this, and we started developing the category we call universal. There's also a lot of conversation. What do you call it? Genderless sounds like you have no gender at all. You took that one. Or all gender or whatever. And we're really going in a journey. But I think what I've experienced so far with your fragrances, it's completely an open target. I agree with what you were saying, because it isn't feminine or masculine anymore. It's really about what do you like and what is the essence of it. I still think that the fragrances coming out of your garden is an incredibly unique story. And we hear a lot of stories here at the Fragrance Foundation. So this is really something incredible. People are also talking a lot about candles. And I am a person who never had a candle in my apartment till last March. And now it's every day and every night. What do you think about the whole candle phenomena? And why did you decide to come out with the bergamot candle now? Because I love your bergamot fragrance. It's magnificent.
Well, thanks. I mean, we've been doing candles a really, really long time, and there's a long, involved story of why we started to create a whole fragrance category. I mean, we were known as a skincare company, and one of the aspects of our skincare company is that we didn't use any artificial fragrance in our skincare, and that was done for a very specific reason. We never felt that your moisturizer should be your diffuser as well. So if you're using a moisturizer and then you also go and buy a Chanel number, whatever, you're already going to have a conflict. The other important thing is that most fragrances in skincare tend to be very, very irritating. So from an efficacy point of view, it made no sense to actually put fragrance or artificial fragrance into our skincare. We did have extracts in our skincare, but those were there for very efficacious reasons. So, for example, we use grapefruit in our grapefruit face cleanser, not because we thought grapefruit was an interesting breakfast choice, but grapefruit really also has nice antimicrobial properties. It's thoroughly cleansing and washes away. It's beautiful to use while you use it, but it doesn't leave a lasting scent. On the other hand, it left us with this whole opportunity to create an olfactory division, because we know people love fragrance, and we personally love fragrance. We just didn't think your skincare should have the job as being doubling as your fragrance company.
And this is dating back. So we're turning 17 years old this month.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
It's our anniversary. And fragrance was added within the
2 years.
Well, yeah, by the second year.
As a category. And so getting back to your candle, certainly I think COVID has illuminated a lot of wicks over the last year. People are stuck at home, they're bored, and they also want to really elevate their home experience. And I don't think there's anything nicer and more simple than a candle. I mean, one, hopefully your candle looks really beautiful, just as an objet. I know we think ours are. Two, it also has a lovely cold throw, so that it's scenting the room subtly, even when it's not illuminated. And then there's actually the ritual of actually lighting the candle, which can be quite beautiful and serene, and then fragrancing the room. So I think candles have become extraordinarily popular because we've been living in an extraordinary time. But even Saul's extraordinary time, it's a beautiful thing to do. It's a very simple, easy way to just create something lovely in your room and to do something really, really nice for yourself. And it's not that complicated. And it fits really well with our whole mentality of our brand.
You know, it's very unusual that a skincare guru duo such as yourself goes into this category and it becomes so big. I also know that all of us who have been staying home, and it's almost a year now, as unbelievable as that may feel, people are really trying to make their home environment distinguished in ways that they weren't before. And I think this category, last year exploded. It used to be everyone talked about home and it was like the biggest increase, but it was on a very small base. I actually think, and I want to hear what you say, I believe it's here to stay. I think spending time at home and doing whatever we're doing, that these home fragrances and candles have really changed our life. So every night my husband gets to pick wine and I get to pick the candle. It's almost like a pairing, and I make him describe what his tastes like, and I tell him what it smells. I love your rum candle, by the way. It's become right now my fave. So what do you think is going to happen after, thank God, COVID? We all get vaccinated. We're out there again. Where do you think the candle category is going to sit with the people who love your brand so much?
I think I think what people have learned, the silver lining of this very horrible experience, is that they've learned how to do something nice for themselves. And they've learned how to enjoy the slowing down and appreciating the ceremony. So I think those aspects of the candle and having a candle at home and burning a candle and the ritual of lighting a candle, I don't think that's going to go away. I think, people have known about it, a certain percentage of the population, but now it's much broader. and people really, really enjoy it. And for a nominal investment, it brings an exponential amount of joy and pleasure to your home environment. So I think it's here to stay. We're a little special with our candles in that we have this idea or concept that's involved with them of recycling them or upusing them. So when you're done burning our candle, all our candles look sort of like vessels that you might drink out of. And that was very, very intentional because we started with dark rum. And so we always encourage people to upcycle and remove the wax. It's very simple and easy to do to clean out. You pop it in the freezer, the wax comes out, a good scrub, but then you can use them as a cocktail glass. So if there's anything more enjoyable maybe than a candle, it's probably a drink, something that we could all use right now. So we're a double, you're scoring 2 points of pleasure when you burn a Malin+Goetz candle, because at the end, there's a cocktail waiting for you.